Paka.
Good afternoon, good evening to you, sir. My name is Arango Gloria Maria, part of Group 6. We are presenting Case 1 and Case 2. My colleagues are Nalugo Lilian Margaret, Birundi Shamim, Nambuya Sheila, and Musobia Hassan. The first question goes with specifications, product specifications and all that. There is no way we are going to talk about product specifications without introducing its meaning and all that. Product specifications in this case can be defined as a statement of attributes of a good or service. Before making specification is a very important attribute in procurement and supply chain management. It is one of the things that we as a procurement department are supposed to look up to, and put into consideration. So we have very many details that go within that can go wrong if specification is not done to its perfection. Very many things can actually go wrong if the specification is not done to its perfection. Number one, there are very many other things that can actually come up with wrong specification and all that. So after reading the case, we found out that there are very many challenges that come up with the flawed or wrong or poor specification. And I beg my colleague to start from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria. I'm by names of Nambia Sheila, and I'm going to talk about the challenges. The first challenges in the case was undescriptive specification on sizes of the uniforms. We also got a challenge of quality specification, emergence of specification trends in the garment industry, poor supply and buyer relationship, availability of salty water in Somalia, and failure of the organization, let's say the ministry, to meet its objectives. Then we went ahead and looked at the range of remedies that can be carried out the side of the buyer, and by that we meaning the ministry, which carried out the procurement. And the first remedy was carrying out due diligence. By this we mean the buyer had to carry out due diligence so as to confirm facts about the chosen supplier. This is mostly about the financial position of the supplier. Then giving detailed and clear specifications to the supplier, involving necessary decision makers or stakeholders in the subject matter. That was our second remedy. And then the buyers had to have a contingency plan. This is like a plan B, where in case things go wrong. Another remedy was keeping buyers' opinion open. That's to say, in case they had another source in line or need. They also had to be clear in their expectations, the ministry, while carrying out the procurement. Global sourcing was also other point. And also conducting supplier evaluation assessment before selecting the supplier. I'll call upon our next colleague to discuss the next part. Shamim, you can go ahead with that.
Okay, I'm going to start from where my colleague has stopped. My name is Birun Shamim. I'm going to give a range of remedies on procurement specification on the side of the buyer. Sorry, on the side of the supplier. Point one is improving supplier-buyer relationship. This includes working together through sharing information to make joint decisions. In this case, the Chinese supplier had to make it clear because they are different, the sizes differ. Like the XXL in Uganda, you might find it is different in China. So the supplier had to keep in touch with the ministry to know the different sizes. Another point, providing a sample to the buyer. This is where a buyer asks a supplier to send a product sample for approval before moving on with the mass production to enable them to match if the sample matches with the production. So for example, in that case, the Chinese supplier had to send different sizes of the samples to the procurement department for confirmation of sizes. Another point is evaluation of culture fits. This involves studying, carrying out research of the buyer's culture to enable them to come out with a good specification. I can give an example in that case. The buyer, the supplier had to carry out research. Since the sizes differ in garment industry, you might find like in Uganda industry, the sizes are different from the China. So the Chinese supplier had to consult, study, carry out the research upon that thing. The last point is carrying out quality control measures. This is where finished products are checked by the inspectors to see if they meet their standards to reduce risks. Therefore, the Ugandan supplier had to carry out quality control measures for the uniforms delivered to the standard of Somalia. Since like, I can stop there. My colleague can continue from there.
We are going to make a full close-up and conclusion for case 2, for case 1 and case 2 at the end of it all. I start with case 2. Case 2 talks about global value chains. The question was, discuss the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic for firms that engage in global value chains. What does that bring to us? That brings to us, you cannot go about tackling this question without knowing what global value chains actually means. So global value chains refers to one international production sharing, a phenomenon where production is broken into activity. activities and tasks carried out in different countries. Some of the activities in global value chains include the designing, the production, marketing, all those activities that commence since the start of production of a good up to the end of the end product. Yes, so global value chains comes with the interconnectedness of the world. Since the world is interconnecting now, there are very many things that actually came in due to COVID-19. COVID-19 came in as a shock. Nobody prepared for it, and it actually took very many people's lives and actually leaving businesses at stake, leaving businesses at their worst. So going back to the question, discuss the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Starting the introduction, my name is Arango Gloria Maria. Yes, thank you so much. And we begin with point number 1, use of technology to carry out their day-to-day activities. Yeah, we actually know that technology goes a mile. Technology moves from, you can reach China even before reaching there, even before boarding a plane or something, you can actually be in China. There are very many things that actually come with technology. So the use of technology, COVID-19 has taught us to use technology even more better in this period because it is what is transcending. There were no planes, there were no nothing, but business kept on moving. So that is one of the lessons that firms actually learned from the pandemic. Point number 2 is agility adoption. Agility refers to the ability to react to certain changes. Since COVID-19 came as a shocker, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to close down the farm or something because you no longer, because you have, because this has come in. So that is why it is better, farms learned that it is better to have, do we call it, okay, it's kind of linked to the contingency plan or things of the sort. So agility adoption was really one of the lessons that firms learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. The other one is learn to have substitutes. This point comes into two. Learn to have substitutes. In which way? For example, if you have been producing, for example, water, yeah, and due to the pandemic, something has really come in as a shock, and you cannot produce the water anymore. Don't close down the business. Maybe resort to soda, maybe resort to juice, maybe resort to something else in line with what you're doing, so that by the time you do the water again, you're still on the same, you're still not going to close down. Yes, so that is learn to have substitutes. The next one is reconsider sourcing options. How do we reconsider sourcing options? There are very many ways. You're supposed to have more than one. Yeah, you're not supposed to, for example, in making cars, you can find that the tires are made, for example, in Italy, and the wheels or all that are made from another country, and the rest are also made from another country. So that is very important. So whenever you have very many places where you get your products from or something, it is easier for you. It is good for the continuity of a business. So that is why reconsider sourcing options was one of the lessons that they learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. The other one is strong relationships between supplier chain partners must involve. Yes, it is very important. Since China was the very first country that was hit by the pandemic, they really communicated. We used to see these things. So by the time they communicated, by the time it got to, for example, our country, Uganda, we already had an idea. We already knew that this was coming, and people had started planning on where to get products from here and there. So strong relationships between supply chain partners is very important. Yes, mapping their supply chain is is also one of the lessons that they actually learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, I think I'll stop at that. My colleague, Lydian, can start from there. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. I'm Nalgo Lillian Margaret. I will continue from where Gloria stopped. I'll be presenting case 2, part B, which goes, the question is, identify and discuss a range of strategy options that can be designed and implemented by organizations to survive demise now and in a future of similar and even much worse pandemics like COVID. The first point is organizations should consider long-term supply chains, especially this can help the organizations to prepare for the occurrence of a random risk. In this case, it's COVID-19. The organizations can do different things. For example, putting a plan ahead team to plan for the future in case a pandemic comes in to the mix, and then plan for different. Can we do and we just add them?
Lillian, you should continue towards the internet problem.
Another point is organizations should have strong relationships with the suppliers. Here, organizations should build trust and confidence with their suppliers, which helps in knowledge sharing and identification of improvement in the opportunities. Organizations can communicate regularly and effectively with their suppliers to create a shared understanding to avoid confusion and disagreement. Yes, by doing this, it can help it can help them to survive demise. And then another point is organizations should support technology adoption and skills development in the value chain. While there is a strong trend towards automation, recent studies suggest that a gap persists between what is technologically feasible and what can economically be implemented at the scale in developing countries. So by developing this technology, it will smoothen the operations that day-to-day daily activities, and thus they will be able to operate and survive the demise. Also, organizations should hold the buffer stock to ensure that customer service targets are always met without compromising cash flow or running out of stock. So that in this case, they can meet their targets as the organization. This will enable them continue to operate as well. In case you buffer stock, it will be easy for you to still meet the customer's targets by delivering with what you buffer stocked in case of the pandemics. Yes. Another point is involving in partnerships. Organizations should involve themselves in partnerships to survive demise now. These partnerships are crucial because they help the organizations have access to resources, regions, and industries that the organizations do not have on its own. But when they create partnerships with these other organizations, they are able to have more opportunities as the organization, thus surviving the demise. Another point is market diversification, where the organizations should expand their market share and enter new markets, maybe by acquiring new products through merging, acquisition. Yes, thus able to produce more products and services to the customers. Another point is flexible supply chain. Companies should build a more flexible supply chain. This can allow them to respond to the current pandemic. For example, diversifying suppliers, especially those that have been involved in the businesses with China, India, making them making them lose out, because those companies, the companies that have been involved in business with China as a country, China and India, they've been really affected in this pandemic. So you should diversify, make it flexible so that you can maybe source from other countries that are not really affected, like those of the Chinese. And then also you can collaborate on the alternative routes by creating relationships with third-party logistic companies, the 3PLs, such as the freight forwarders and shipping companies. Yes, that can help to survive the demise of the organization. I will call upon another colleague to conclude on the cases we have presented. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Our first conclusion is on the specifications. Specifications is very important. I'm concluding. Very important to any procurement that if a wrong specification is made, we always get wrong products. So if a product is delivered which is not meeting our specifications, that means the organization is going to fall into a financial loss and there will be no value for money for that item. When a wrong specification is made, that means the product will be rejected or the supply. And when it is rejected, we either go to the next lowest best evaluated bidder. If not, that procurement will be retendered, which will lead to wastage of time and resources. That is our first summary on specification or conclusion. Then on the COVID pandemic, on our second case, despite the fact that COVID-19 has brought havoc to the world and it has led to economic depression, deaths of our dear ones, lockdowns of very many countries, somehow there was some silver lining. During COVID-19, we didn't dream we would have even Zoom classes like we are doing now, Zoom meetings. So technology has been somehow improved. Online shopping has gained value. People no longer travel, they shop online. People have become billionaires, like pharmaceuticals who are selling these vaccines, even though at the expense of the poor countries and poor people. Good eating habits, people now these days know how to eat good food, eating things which really help and which help our body and the environment. So I think despite other negatives, there are also other positives. Thank you, group members. That's my conclusion on both topics.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you so much, sir. That is all we had to present.